to present some particulars on the site and why Public Works is interested in the site to begin with. So unless there's specific questions of me for the process, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Gary.
Gary.
Okay. So since we have the map pulled up here, we'll start with it real quick.
We got a laser pointer.
So Perry alluded to the 80-something acres. What we have highlighted in the dark blue there is the bench we're looking at towards the gravel pit, the initial gravel pit. Which one's what here? Laser pointer. So this piece here, you can see all these dots here are test holes that we have dug. So you'll see some that are off of that, and then some that are down below as well. So what we did is we went in there and we dug a bunch of 20-foot deep holes to see what we had for material down below. What we ran into was about anywhere from 2 to 3 feet of topsoil on this bench here. And then we dug down about 20 feet deep into the rock to see if we got out of the rock or if the rock kept going. We dug down 20 feet, didn't get out of the rock, so the numbers I ran and are in the proposal today are based off of just 20-foot depth. So everything's a minimum. When you run the numbers off of this parcel, or it's not a parcel right now, but off of this piece of that parcel, it equates out to, well, before I dive completely in, so what we're proposing is we would keep this parcel, and then we would do a boundary line adjustment to make this all one parcel. And then we would propose to sell off to Fish and Wildlife, if that comes to fruition, the remainder of this and then this parcel down here. So totals would be 148.66 acres that the county would keep. We would sell 391.26 acres for a total, and so the total acreage is total acreage is 539.92 acres. So when you break that cost down, that comes out to $1,852.13 an acre. So then when you break that down farther and you look at the county keeping the 148.66 at the purchase price of $1,852 an acre, county share of that property would be $275,337.65. If we sell, correct. Yes.
To the Department of Fish and Wildlife for the amount of money that we want.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Then based on that. And we're on public hearing, so I'm going to throw out all these questions so that people out there can follow along too. So when the Department of Fish and Wildlife comes in, they have an assessor, I think, don't they, that assesses how much land value is?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. So do we know if the assessed value, or if the payment price that we're going to pay is in line with what Fish and Wildlife would come in and assess that at?
Fish and Wildlife seems to be fully on board with the amounts that we've discussed with them. I haven't talked to an assessor from their side of it. I've actually trying to talk with our assessors here, and we're playing a little bit of phone tag there. But I would hope to have a more affirmative number from them. But at this point, I mean, it's still preliminary discussions with them. They seem to be really on board with the idea of doing a joint, I mean, obviously that takes a little bit of time. It's not something that, we would buy this and then within a month they're going to come in with the money to pick it up. I think it's going to be a 2 to 3 year process in working with Fish and Wildlife to get that pulled off. So the remainder, the 391.26 acres that we would potentially sell to them would be a purchase price from them at $724,662.35, making up the $1 million purchase price. What it equates down to is when you do the math at 20 foot deep on that site, it equates to 1.6 million tons of crushable material.
That's just at the 20-foot level.
That's just at the 20-foot level. That equates out to 17 cents per ton to pay for the county's portion of the property. For me, I always like to look at, okay, well, we're going to buy this property. I got to add that cost into the cost of the rock. So that way we're reflecting the true cost. So 17 cents per ton to basically buy that
If
if.
we get the 700, if.
Correct.
So even
And
if.
that's at a minimum. So that equates out to, we crush 80,000 tons every 5 years. That turns us into a minimum of a 75-year pit. Comes out to 74.8 years at that 20-foot depth. We know for a fact it's going to go deeper than that. But we know, I only want to portray what we know. We know there's 20 feet of rock, so that's what I'm going to portray. Anything over that's great at this point.
So let's say that the Department of Fish and Wildlife comes in and says, we can only give you $500,000 for that piece. So that would double our cost to 34 cents.
Correct.
Per ton
Yep.
for the purchase price.
Which
Well, how does that equate right there? 'Cause
well, so typically we range on royalties. We range, so we don't have very many sites that we crush out of that we pay royalties. Most of ours are borrow pit sites that we operate off of, mainly because the royalty price in a crush pit would send the rock price too high. So usually minimum's about $1.50 a yard, and there's 1.43 tons to a yard, so a yard of material costs more. So we pay $1.50 upwards of $3.
So is that anywhere from like $1 a ton?
No, it would be higher than that.
How many yards are in a ton?
There's 1.43 tons
Oh,
in a yard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So $3
Yeah.
to $4.50 a ton.
correct. Yep. So that's the reason why we typically don't.
Price 34 cents is.
Yeah. So even if things didn't go quite the way we, had hoped with Fish and Wildlife or another government agency, we still wouldn't, obviously wouldn't be quite as gravy as what we're looking at, but honestly, at the 34 cents, we're still $1.20 cheaper than if we were paying
Don't make
royalties.
it look too good, they might want more money.
So, I ran some numbers as well on what we're currently paying for crushed rock versus going and buying it from the private sector. So we buy some rock out of Freel. There's a new rock pit that's opening up close to Freel's operation down there in Pateras. And so I have some current price. They don't currently have any rock. They anticipate having rock this fall. I got some prices from them as well. The one sticking point is coverstone. Not many outfits crush coverstone. Freel has said he will crush us coverstone at $14 a ton. I pay $5.50 a ton in our own pits to have that crushed. So basically, I'll run through a few figures. For half-inch coverstone, I'm paying $5.50 a ton.
Here, I got a question.
Sure.
So, and you say we pay $5.50 a ton.
Yes.
For crushed rock. Now, that is depending on volume, though, right?
Correct. If you crush a lower
If
volume,
we
they're going to
crush-
charge you more.
Or if we crush more.
Typically, it's right in there. Your tonnages is usually what happens is the more rock you crush, they charge you mold fees, which still get wrapped into that $5.50. The $5.50
So it
reflects.
doesn't go down linearly, it goes
Right.
down kind of
Yep.
exponent.
Yep.
So you crush a little, you pay a lot, but
Right.
as you crush more, you don't pay
Correct.
a lot less.
Yeah. Usually your price per ton of the crushing stays the same as your mold fees that are the ones that fluctuate. So obviously, if they're going to make more money off of crushing rock, they're going to charge less for the mold in and mold out. So.
Well, we've done enough crushing
I just
over
got-
the years. Generally, they make it, the volume enough that you can get these bigger crushers.
Absolutely, yeah,
Which
we've
makes it
correct, yeah. We've found that we can't do the small volumes, otherwise we can't get the guys to come in and do it. Or we're at the mercy of their, usually when we crush the larger volumes, they'll push some of their other crushings aside and fit ours in when we need it. And we found that we weren't getting them guys to bid because we were throwing too small quantities. And then the other thing we looked at is okay, well, if we're going to bring a crusher in here every 2 years, I'm going to pay $50,000 in mold fee. Why not crush more tonnage and maximize that mold fee? and bring them back every 4 years versus every 2 years. That's,
Or 5. I
yeah,
like 5.
exactly. So,
So can we go back
Yeah.
actually to point of beginning of
Mhm.
why this even started? Because we've been looking
Sure.
for a place up in the Met House.
I've been looking for a long time.
Long,
Yeah.
long time,
Yeah.
because currently, we have 2 pits.
We have 2 pits that are played out.
That are done.
Yes.
Right, so
Yes.
this year is our last chip seal with material from those 2 pits.
Yeah, and I'm having to actually haul material from our central pit site over there to finish out this year's schedule. We're coming up about 600 yards short of chips to do that, and so we're gonna do a pre-haul and pre-stage it over there just so we can do this year's schedule. We've been kicking the can down the road on maintenance over there due to this issue. And so I've been putting off any other maintenance work over there because I don't have the rock. And I have the same problem in the Brewster area.
So, and where do we get rock for the Brewster area right now?
It's coming out of our central pit as well.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, it's, how long has it been coming out of there for?
Brewster pit has been played out for over 2 years now.
Okay.
This would be the 3rd year that we have no rock in the Brewster area. I did buy some rock out of, from Friel's, out of Godby's, last year. Problem is, once again, chips on hand, he'll make it for us, but it's $14 a ton. I can't afford to do the maintenance work at $14 a ton. We won't be able to do any other maintenance in the rest of the county. So we've been kind of kicking that can down the road, and the danger of doing that is our costs go up every year for doing maintenance work due to materials and everything else, and so we look at the cost of doing it this year, and then we look at if we kick that down the road 5 years, that cost increases. Well, now I can't do the same amount of work that I was gonna do this year. I have to do less work. Now I gotta figure out where do I come up with the money to get the rest of that work done.
So just for the people out there, where's our central pit located?
Our central pit's located right up here by the landfill off of B&O Road.
Okay. So from here to Brewster is,
I don't,
what is it, 40?
no, it's not quite that far.
33 miles.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you just, from Central Pit, you could go down
B&O Road.
B&O.
Yeah.
So you could cut,
Mhm.
it's only probably 20,
Right.
21 miles.
So
Right, but it's more of a haul from here than it would be from Methow to Paterno.
It's actually about a toss. To Pateros, it's way closer. So our intent for this pit is not just for the Methow Valley Area 3. So we call it the Area 3 would be the Methow Twist and down the Methow Valley. Area 4 is our Brewster, Pateros, and kind of Malott area. So we intend to still service the Malott and kind of the upper end of the Brewster area out of the central pit. Everything else would come out of the proposed Methow pit. And so we have some numbers and mileage. I ran some figures on what it would cost to do a chip seal road. I know we've had lots of questions come out over the last week or so. And one of them was, what is the county currently spending on hauling and buying rock? So I ran a scenario versus doing a full-blown envelope that really would, I mean, if I did a county-wide projection, doesn't really hone in on what we're looking for. So what I did is to do a chip seal on Twist Winthrop Eastside Road. And so it is 27 miles from the Methow pit to Twist Winthrop Eastside Road. It is 27 and a half miles from the central pit to that very same road.
Okay.
Different-
Unless the loop
Right.
washes out.
Unless the loop washes out, or
Which is a very constant now.
so the other thing you gotta take into consideration is it takes longer to haul over the loop because you gotta go up and over the pass, and so you're not gonna make, drive time's about the same, but, I mean, drive distance is about the same, but drive time is not. So, really, by running the projections, the labor and equipment cost for hauling from the Methow pit would be $12,819.38. The hauling from the central pit would be $17,092.50. This is all labor and equipment. And then hauling from Friel pit would be $20,511. That's just labor and equipment. Now, when you look at the rock side of it, central and the Methow pit would be the same cost rock-wise. So we're talking $8,250 out of either one of those pits for the rock. So totaling from the Miller pit, or I'm sorry, the Methow pit, $21,069.38 for rock and the hauling cost, labor and equipment. And then, so your central pit is at 25,342. The difference there is longer haul time. And then you have the Freel pit, because of $14 a ton, you see the cost of the rock, cost of labor and equipment due to the mileage. You're 42 miles from his pit to that road.
So the cost of our rock in the central pit, you think is gonna be, is the same as?
We're finding the cost of the rock that we did in our last 3 crushings. So we crushed in central, so we didn't end up crushing over in the Met House because that pit ended, or at our twist shot pit, because that ended up being played out. So we only crushed in 2 pits, but the price for these products between here and our Nespelem pit were identical. The difference was in mob. And actually the mob fee was identical too, so.
Okay, but you did add in the 34, or I'm sorry, what you figured at 17 cents a ton for the cost of the purchase price over there, right?
For the mill, yes.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah, so that's kind of the breakdown of it, and then over here you see Coverstone 5/8. So Freel's pit, that is the actual prices that we're paying them. Take in mind the $14 a ton is if he crushes the stockpile for us there at his place. He does have some rock over in Chelan that is a 3/8 minus. We needed some last year, it cost me $22 a ton. And originally when I talked to him, he said the cheapest I could do it is $18 a ton. I'm like, wow, and so then he's whittled it down to $14. That's us hauling it. That's just for him. I mean, it's his rock source. I mean, he's taken away from his future life of that pit.
Gotcha.
And that brings us into the other reason why, is okay, well, why would we look at, when we have a pit here that's 27.5 miles, why would we look at another pit that's 27 miles from that same location? What's the need? Why not just take it from the one pit? Well, the problem is we have this one pit here that was, in all conception, was put in that place and the quantities figured out for this area. Well, now if I start servicing the other 2 areas, now I'm servicing 4 areas out of that, this pit is going to be played out within the next 10 years.
Yeah, but the other thing too is you chose a road that is right at the end of the loop.
Right.
It just so happens that those 2 are
Right.
identical. You
Right.
start,
Exactly.
you know.
So there's lots of factors that can go into play, but honestly, we have to find another, and so the reason why we've looked in this area is looking at the geographical breakdown of trying to service both the Area 3 and Area 4 locations. We were trying to find something that split the middle so we could, instead of buying 2 pits, one for Area 4 and one for Area 3, that maybe we can get the right property in the right location, so then we can service both areas out of that one pit.
And something that's not $100,000 thing.
Correct. So, anyways, yeah, that's pretty much the breakdown on that.
Gary,
Yeah.
I've been reading or following the Facebook, and there's a lot of misconceptions and stuff.
Correct.
Being thrown out
Yep.
there, so. When we do, let's see, I think the last 80,000 ton contract was in the Orville pit,
Mhm.
Gavin pit.
Mhm.
They were only in there like 13 or 14 days,
Correct. Correct.
So there's a misnomer that the public has already thrown around on Facebook is, the people are saying, well, we don't want a crusher in there 365 days a year,
Right,
24
right.
hours a day making noise, and that's not gonna happen. That's
No.
one of the things.
So what we typically look at is so when they did the crush here at the central pit, we did with the landfill, we were right in that same ballpark for tonnages. And from start to finish, from mob in to mob out was 1 month. Actively crushing was right at 2 weeks. Maybe just a hair bit over 2 weeks. We had some mud issues and stuff that we had to address, but, so yeah, like I have some breakdowns and so that's the reason why we're looking at 5-year increments and crushing enough tonnage to get us through the 5 years for those 2 areas. Is we're only bringing a crusher in and we're looking at a 2 to 3 week window out of every 5 years
Yeah.
that the crusher's going to be there. When you look at the topograph, we can go into that slide,
Oh, sure.
the slideshow.
Did they get those elevations with the drone?
I don't know, did you take the?
Yeah, we got a slideshow here, it's got the drone. For Wednesday night's meeting, I'm going to have a 3D rendering of what the pit will look like
Oh, good.
years down the road. So that'll all be developed. They're still working on it as we speak. But I do have some pictures with the drone. This is a 3D rendering of the property as it sits right now. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna take
So the town of Mount Howe would be to the left there?
the town of Met House down here.
Down there, okay.
Yeah, it's actually more this way. So here's the entrance here off of Danville Road,
Yep.
and then it winds its way up. But so the pit site's gonna be up here and run across the upper portion of this bench. It's not gonna be visible from the valley floor.
So that doesn't show the entirety of the property then at all?
No, this is just the
That's
front
just the
parcels that
pit
we're
site.
looking, the rest of the parcel, the stuff you're not seeing there, basically to map that whole entire property, I can't fit it all into one project. So we could do multiple other projects if you want.
Well, what I was thinking was to get,
Some of the pictures are gonna show kind of the entirety.
I was gonna say to get the expanse of that piece of property and
right.
what really we're
Right.
doing.
So, in that other picture that we had up, that showed the test holes and stuff, the test holes that were up above there that we kind of cut off that we didn't want, we dug down over 20 feet and never got out of topsoil. And like, we don't want the upper portion of that. That's not what we're after. We're not in the topsoil business. We're not in the rock selling business. We're in the maintenance business and maintaining county roads. That is the sole purpose of this pit site, is to service Okanogan County roads. We're not getting in the rock business. We're not trying to sell rock. We're not trying to compete with other private companies. We're merely trying to maintain our county roads and our infrastructure. So, like I said, in the 3D rendering that we'll have, it'll show what this thing will look like, excavated out to 20 feet deep. So it'll give a good visual of that. But we could scroll through and there's some different views, once again, of the 3D rendering. We just kind of keep flipping right on through. This is looking across. So over here, there's the barn right there.
Okay.
That's the upper bench.
So really though.
This
when
is
you
French
use-
Creek.
So, yep, you're looking over at French Creek. So where's the barn again?
The barn is right there.
Okay, so how far back from that barn is it flat? Because when I'm looking at there, you can't tell how far
Yeah.
flat you are until you start that rise.
Right, yep. So that whole level, geez, it's over 600 feet from this edge to where the next upper hill takes off.
Okay, so where the barn is, where I'm looking
Uh-huh.
at that black dot.
Yep.
And then I see the face of that, that's not gonna be excavated, is it?
No, no.
No, so you're not
You're not
looking
going
at
to
this
see-
level right here, you're
Right.
probably not going to see anything because it's
No.
gonna be down in.
Correct. So
Yeah,
for
and
the
that'll
first
happen
couple,
on that- That'll happen on the very first crush.
well, the very first crush, you will see our stockpiles.
That's it.
That is it,
And
50 feet high. We're gonna keep the stockpiles flat topped at around the 20-foot mark. It'll be a larger footprint of a stockpile, but that's just to mitigate visual impact. But once we get, it might take 2 crushings before we get enough of the bottom opened up, then to transition those piles down into the pit site, then you won't even see the piles. And so basically, yeah, you won't see this. We're gonna take the topsoil that's there, we're gonna have the topsoil to reclaim this properly. And so, now there's a few more pictures, once again, kind of the same thing, looking across the barn, still in the same location. I think a few of the others, here's a little closer view of it. Obviously, you can see the town right below us there.
So that flat bench is where we're.
That flat bench,
Right.
that whole
Yeah.
flat bench is what we're talking. Stockpiles will go out in this area.
And where are you at? Are you over on Burma Road right now? Or is that drone?
That's the drone.
Okay, so it's up
So
higher. than
that's the
Burma.
drone. I don't know how many, there might be a few more pictures in there. This is from the property looking across. There were some complaints about Burma Road and what that development, how it scarred the land and how that's an eyesore for some of the property owners down there. And they want to ensure that the county isn't creating the same eyesore that's there now.
we would improve that road though.
Well, this has nothing to do with us.
I know that doesn't, but the road to the pit.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
the other thing about the configuration of the road is that,
No, this is from the property, those two roads right there are not on the plan.
yeah, the property is back this way.
in that previous slide, what I was gonna
Yeah,
point
can
out
we
is.
jump back? So you can see the road coming up to the property
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
but only maybe 5% exposure is gonna be from the town of Methow to even see those trucks on that road when they're hauling out there.
Correct.
Because of where it goes.
Yeah, they're not gonna see them really till they hit the highway.
Yeah.
So we have to widen that out so we can have trucks passing each other without having to call out on the radio and have guys back up and have a nightmare and have somebody run into somebody.
So that's another thing to note, if the Department of Fish and Wildlife were to look at these, I know
Mhm.
public access
Yes,
becomes one of their main
Correct.
things. So this property butts up to National Forest Service.
butts up to some DNR land, some BLM land, and some Forest Service land.
And so we would be looking at public access.
Correct. So our intent is that road will be improved to allow that, so our trucks could still be on that access road when you have public trying to go up and utilize the state land. Our intent is to, I don't have a real good, could we go back to the other image, the very first image, the map with all the dots on it? I think it'll show the road.
Sorry.
Proposed purchase layout.
Oh, whoops.
That
Right
SN1 right there.
Yeah.
So you can see the road coming up right here.
Yep.
Out of the bottom. What we're thinking is we'll have a gate right here, the county trucks, but we'll just Y off here and bring a road over here and put a parking area right over here. It would be on county-owned land still. But that would give the public somewhere to go and park to be out of the way of our operations and still access the state land. And then we intend to do soil stabilization work on the haul road to minimize, well, it's more to minimize, so we don't minimize our maintenance costs in maintaining this
Well,
road.
dust abatement too.
That's a byproduct of doing it. But yeah, basically I don't want every time we roll 10 trucks out there, I have to run a grader up there to smooth back out again. And actually, to be honest with you, as long as the life term of this pit's going to be, I wouldn't mind seeing down the road, maybe investing a little bit in maybe doing the double penetration and actually paving the thing up to the site, and eliminating the maintenance needs altogether. But that's down the road. Bare minimum would be widening it, and doing the soil stabilization work. And then we can look at things as we progress down the road. If funds are available and we decide that we still, maintenance-wise, we're still spending too much to maintain this gravel road, that maybe we look at upgrading it. Because I'll be honest, I think, you know, we're looking at a 100+ year pit site, and potentially farther. So bare minimum, we're at 75 years. So I did run through a bunch of questions that we had received. One of them was the hauling side of it. What will the material be used for? The material is going to be used for maintaining of county roads within Area 3 and Area 4. So once again, we're talking about Twist, Winthrop, Carlton, Brewster, Pateris.
Is this that string of questions from?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Can we just kind of go down those?
You betcha.
And that way they're answered kind of in succession.
You betcha. So how much does the county spend on obtaining and transporting? That was the previous slide that we looked at on the.
So currently, over in the Meadow, we used to haul out of the two pits that we had,
Mhm.
the one over by the smoke jumper base.
Yep.
And the one
On Twin Lakes.
on Twin Lakes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we would go in there and crush
Mhm.
on, what, three-year, are those pits, were those pits?
Those pits were a little bit longer. They were probably a 5 to 6 year.
5 to 6 year.
Because the mileage for that area is a little smaller than some of our other areas.
Right.
And so like I said, typically we look at it and you want your tonnages to be up. So sometimes we crushed enough to do every road through the county, every paved road through that area at least one time, sometimes 1.5 times. But then you're looking at, okay, well, I'm gonna crush 15 years out before I use that rock. Well, there's cost of that rock sitting there, so usually we try to break that so it's not such a long time frame in between.
Okay, so currently, or from basically this year backwards, our spending over there was pretty low because we were able to get rock at those two pits and then deliver it wherever right there.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. So on our budgets that we've been utilizing right now, that's been a part of our budget.
Right.
Those short hauls.
Right.
Having rock over
Yeah,
there.
and we've been limited on rock over there actually for the last 2.5 to 3 years. This would be the third season that we've been punting stuff down the road because we don't have enough rock to pull that off.
So really, our budgets have not really been reflective of the amount of maintenance that we should be doing over there.
Correct.
Because we didn't have the amount of rock to do
That's correct.
what we needed to do.
Yep.
Okay, so those pits are done
Yep.
now. So if we don't do something over there, we're hauling out of Central, so.
Correct. And then we're gonna kill Central and we're gonna have to do something for here as well.
Right.
Sooner than later.
Do you know roughly how many, I know this is really, depends on which road you're chip sealing and whatever.
Right.
but On average, about how many truckloads of material would we haul out of any one of those two pits in the Met Howe per year to do a chip seal program?
So truckloads itself, typically we have anywhere from 15 to 20 trucks hauling when we're chip sealing. And they're gonna make 6 to 8 rounds a day. But we're there for 3 days and then we're gone. Or we're there for 2 days and we're gone.
Okay, so that traffic then would be going over the loop.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Yes.
traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
basically, by going up and over the loop, we add an extra half a day to that one project, where it took us 1 day out of the Met Howe pit, it took us a day and a half out of Central, and it took us 2 days out of the Frio pit. Yeah, so,
So does that answer that question?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so where will the material be used? Is it cost effective to have the gravel pit in the lower valley versus more centrally located site? I think we've answered that one
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, so basically, once again, the idea is we're not servicing just the Met Howe Valley with this pit site, we're servicing the Brewster Pateris as well, and so that's the reasoning for the location of this pit site, versus trying to purchase 2 separate pit sites and permit 2 separate, pit sites. We believe this is gonna be way more cost effective.
Okay, so detailed cost benefit analysis, and is that available public? I think that's we've kind of gone through.
We've also done, on the back table here next to the map printout that we have, there's some summary reports of a detailed analysis that was done in 2013. So this is just a quick summary that goes through. They wanted to look at, is it still cost effective for the county to own their own rock sources and crush versus utilizing private sector? I have the full blown that I will email to Laney next week that we'll have for our July 8th meeting. It's a lengthy read. It's 60 plus pages of some pretty dry stuff. I find it interesting, but it's what I do. So anyways, it basically backs up why we're still looking to buy land and have our own rock pit sites. Kind of speaks for itself. So like there's plenty of copies back there for anybody in the audience to take one and go through it if they want. If they want the full-blown detail, give me a call, I'll get it to you.
Okay. So the expected lifespan of this pit is minimum 75 years.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, and is there enough material to justify spending $1 million? So let's say that we had to spend, worst case scenario, that all of a sudden, we decide to buy this pit and Department of Fish and Wildlife said, yeah, no, we can't do it, we can't afford it, DNR doesn't, nobody wants to, nobody wants it, even though it is good habitat.
Right.
So have you done an analysis at the $1 million sale price?
I have not run the figures, but basically we could take the 1.6 million tons at the projected 20 foot depth and divide that into the $1 million, and that's going to spit out that number.
Could you do that for the meeting for?
Absolutely, yes.
So that we can say, okay, worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
This is or is not still cost effective. I think it's still going to be cost effective.
Correct.
It could be less than $1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So even if we don't sell any of that
Right.
property or can't sell any of that property.
And if we don't sell any of that property, honestly, this now turns into a much larger pit site. There's still other spots within that property that we could go to. This was just the best. There's still lots of other resources there that we could utilize even on dirt roads. There's decomposed granite and other sites in there that we could utilize.
Which we don't necessarily want to do.
Correct.
Right?
Correct, but if we had to keep the whole entire property, that opens up a few other avenues. In the parcels that we're looking at keeping, there's already some decomposed granite sites in there. That's the reason why I was willing to let the other location go, because it was on the far back side of the property and building the road all the way out to it and everything else. I just figured why we're gonna be going right by the other location. So, like I said, there's other things that we're gonna pull from, that we could pull from this current proposal, other than just crushed gravel.
So what are the plans for the reclamation when the pit has been exhausted? I don't even know, what does a reclamation plan entail?
So that all part of the CUP process and going through that'll all have to be, it's required before we even open, before they'll issue the permits. We have to have a reclamation plan in sight.
So what do you see
And
that?
that restricts also, the permit itself, not just the conditional use
Right.
permit, but the permit from the DNR.
DNR permit, yeah.
For mining.
Yep.
Has a lot of restrictions and restoration.
Right.
That goes right
Yep.
along with it.
And once again,
It
that's,
might be good to have a few of those regulations to ensure the public that it's not gonna be just a great big huge open pit,
Right.
You're gonna be able to take gravel from one place, and I think it's 3 acres is the maximum right now.
that's on a minimum, that's to stay under an unpermitted pit site.
Okay,
So if you wanna go in there and open up a pit site and not get it permitted, you gotta stay under 3
yeah,
acres.
okay.
Then you gotta have
But
301
there's,
slopes.
even if you do get both permits, the
Mhm.
conditional use permit
Mhm.
and the DNR mining permit in place, they're still very stringent rules.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to follow for.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus MSHA comes into play.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a pit
And
site.
MSHA is International Mining Safety and
Yeah, it's
Health
federally related.
Administration, I think.
Yeah, it's a federally regulated program, or, it's not a program, agency.
Yeah, it's like L&I.
Yep, yep.
Much more stringent.
Absolutely,
Anytime you do open pit mining, it's
Yes.
MSHA.
yes.
Okay, so who did the site evaluation to determine the quantity and quality of material? We had a couple different people come in there, didn't we?
Absolutely. So we went out and we dug all the test holes, and then what I did is I went out and I brought in a couple independent rock crushers. One of them happened to be Dave Friel from Godby's. Had him come out and say, "Hey, would you crush in this pit site?" He didn't, he said, "Yeah, it looks good." There's a few concerns that he had. Dave's perspective is from the concrete business side of it. And so that's what he said, I'm having a tough time removing the concrete business side of it from what you guys want it for. And so he was looking at all of the reject sand. Well, guess what we use the reject sand for? That's what our winter maintenance product comes from.
Yeah.
We have to have the reject sand for winter maintenance purposes. And so when you look at that, then you're like, well, absolutely, it makes sense. It's not a waste product for you guys like it is for me. And so I had Subert's, who's a big crushing outfit out of Lewiston, Idaho, I believe. But they own a paving company, and anyways, they're a massive company or whatever. But I had Subert flew in, and he went up there and took a look, and he looked at one test hole and said, I don't need to look at the rest of it. You guys be fools not to do this. He said this is he said if it was private, this would be a money-making pit site for me. So,
Is there any competition for the pits in Okanogan County
for where we're currently at,
in general?
no, we're not.
Well, so my belief is that they're pretty hard to get permitted anyway. So
Correct.
it's- I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And thus the other reason why we're looking in the location we are versus something farther up the valley as well. Yeah, as for, like I said, competing with another, there's a few that have been seeking permits on pit sites. One recently just got one in the Omak area, and like I said, the one down in the terrace is opening up, but it used to be an old pit site years ago, and they're just reopening. I think that used to be run by Barrowmans years ago. But everybody's, I mean, you talk to any county or state agency, and resources are getting harder and harder to come by. It's because you can't get these pits opened up.
So this is a good question. Given the county's history of strong opposition to converting private property to public land, what is different about this situation that makes the county willing to do so? What is the tax revenue that will be gained or lost?
So I have a breakdown right there. I don't know if you want to follow up on that, or?
Yeah, I did follow up on that.
Yep.
So I have the assessor
Mhm.
pull the tax records,
Yep.
and that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
So the total tax for that 500 acres is $559.
Yeah.
So
That's total tax.
that's
Well,
total
it's,
tax.
Yeah.
That is not, so the current, one of those, the two top parcels, or no, it must be the second one down and the last one down. The current expense portion is 59 cents, and the public roads section, or amount is 59 cents. The biggest money portion on those is the DNR fire, and there is DNR fire amounts on this,
Yeah.
and the weed
Yeah.
tax on it. Or those are the two highest taxes on these two parcels. So
Right.
this is not to mention the fact that for the biennium, at least, WDFW has been granted the ability to pay their full amount of PILT.
Mhm.
So if we are able to sell it to them, they will pay their full amount of tax bill for at least, well, depending on if it gets reallocated, like a year, so 20 and 21, I think is.
Okay,
Right.
and I'd like to throw something in there too, is the county's strong opposition to converting private property to public land has been because of tax exempt status, or the fact that they don't pay the equal amount of taxes. I've talked to lots of ranchers that say, WDFW is the worst neighbor in the world you can have. They don't fix their fence, they don't spray the weeds. So these last acquisitions, when WDFW is coming in here, they've got the message. They give you a breakdown. We'll spend this much on weeds, we'll spend this much on fencing, and we will also pay the full assessed amount of taxes. That makes a lot of difference to us being opposed to private versus public land. And even the farmers and ranchers will tell you, you put us on an equal playing field, I don't care who owns land, I just want it taken care of.
Yep.
So one thing, this doesn't have any cattle grazing on it, I think. I think that it was
It's open
just used
space.
for horses in the winter time, is that it?
Sometimes in the spring.
Sometimes in the spring. So there's not like active grazing or agriculture, where if the Department of Fish and Wildlife buys this, that something could happen where because that's another, I think,
Yeah.
worry, is that, somebody, Department of Fish and Wildlife buys a cattle operation or a piece of property that has cattle grazing, they go in and say, no, we don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
This one's a little bit different because it doesn't have that much going on it.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that if we do this, I mean, we're saving tax dollars, we're saving county tax dollars. We've been taking a levy shift from the road department for the last now 3 years. And so, that money's got to come from somewhere. If we can save money and get something like this, I mean, that's, you break it down, and that's pretty good for over in the Met House, for a piece of property that would give us 100 years.
Right.
Fix it.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, when you break this down and like I said, you look at the total tax and you break down like you did, I'll be honest, if losing out on that amount of road revenue breaks us, we got bigger problems in this pit site.
will this impact the property values and thus the tax revenue from surrounding properties?
So I did not answer that yet because I have not been able to sit down with the assessor and have an honest conversation with him. I'm still hoping to have that conversation before Wednesday night's meeting.
I guess one place I would go to is Twin Lakes.
Right.
I mean, it sits right next to our pit.
Yep.
So if there is some devaluation because of the church, well, the church is not a good one, right? Some of those houses that sit right there, if there's a devaluation, he would know.
Right.
From my thought is that, no way.
And so some of the other concerns that have been expressed to me is I'm not on the link of the social media stuff that's been flying around, but some of the concerns were the other way, that the price that we're looking at paying per acre may increase the value of their property, thus making them pay more in property tax.
I don't think $1,800 an acre is gonna do anything to anybody's
Right.
property out there.
So anyways, but that sounded like a
I
higher
wouldn't
concern.
mind it actually if that happened in my neck of the woods.
Depends on when you're gonna sell, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so
Number 9, we've answered.
I can imagine that the owner would not want to divest just a piece of property.
That's the first thing I went after was, okay, can we buy just this portion? And
If I had
through
that-
the discussion of it, it was, they want to sell in its entirety.
Yeah.
They don't want to start chunking it up and dealing with that side of it.
We're just
Well,
going,
not only too, in the second part of the question, that's why the county is looking to sell the acreage that is
Yeah.
not needed to DFW, that's reducing the cost to the county. Part of that, we've already discussed, is mitigation to the public so that they would have public access
Correct.
to that and BLM
Right.
and Forest Service.
Right.
I guess that the other issue there, of course, is that there's no certainty in how the property would be developed if it were only purchased.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. The current property owner pretty much lets anybody they want, wants to go for a hike or whatever. So technically they kind of have access through there right
lose that.
now. And they would not lose that access going this route, but if it was chunked up, more than likely it's going to get locked off. And then once again, you've got more state land that is landlocked that nobody can access. At least this way, people can still access the state land that they already own and the federal land.
So currently, we just put the 5 acre zone, 108 5-acre lots.
Yeah.
One thing that this does do also is that we know that down there, under the 2 CFS reservation, that we have a lot of lots down in that lower piece. I mean, that lower piece is big. So we take out, we're gonna take out basically 108 5-acre lots that are not gonna get a well for a long run.
Right.
Who's going to manage the property in terms of weed control, fire response, etc.?
Okanogan County Public Works will be managing the property. We have our own spray department, plus we also utilize the private contractors in the county for maintaining our pit sites and a lot of our county gravel roads. We currently have 2 guys that work in our spray department and run county equipment across all of our paved roads and very select gravel roads, and the rest of that we contract out to the private contractors in the county to maintain the rest of it for us.
And that's on, so if we decide to purchase this,
Mhm.
if we get everything together, and if we sell it to Department of Fish and Wildlife, they would manage their,
They would manage their portion,
Their
correct.
portion.
We would just manage the portion of the property that is county owned.
is the current road access adequate? I think we've already kind of covered that. Will there be additional jobs created?
No.
How will this impact the local private gravel suppliers? Well,
We don't see it, Okanogan County Public Works as a whole does not see a negative impact to the local. We're following current county practices of, we really buy our own, we crush and use our own rock. We've laid out the costs and why we do so.
and we're not selling this out to the public.
Correct.
So this is
Yeah.
not, it's not like we're putting
Yeah.
private individuals out of business if we're all of a
Exactly.
sudden wanting to get some big gravel.
Yeah, we've contacted, like I said, Dave Friel at Godby's has said he will crush stockpiles for us. But at the prices, we just can't afford to go that route. We have contacted Cascade, and they're not even interested in crushing stockpiles for us at any price. So that was pretty much where we ended up. Those are our two sources, and yeah, like I said, they didn't even want to give us, they didn't even want to entertain the notion of crushing rock for us. So.
How will this impact traffic in the area? So, I mean, basically, we're played out up there, so either the traffic's coming over the loop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's either coming over the loop or it's coming up 153 or down 153.
Yep.
So
basically, when you look at it in normal operation, this is going to be hit or miss. Some years we're going to have very little truck traffic. In years that we're doing chip seal work, because it's done in cycles, in years that we're doing chip seal work in either Area 3 or Area 4, for those anywhere from 1 day to a week, depending on how many miles we're doing in a given area, we typically do between 6 and 7 miles a day of chip seal work when we're chip sealing. So, you know, if I'm doing 14 miles, it's going to take me 2 days. So you're going to see that truck traffic increase for that time frame and then die off to where you're not going to see the county trucks. So not just chip seal, we have pre-level work that goes, you know, into, before we chip seal the road, we go out and we make pre-level and we level out our roads and fix, you know, deficiencies within the roads or hand patch and stuff. And so typically that's done in the month of May, usually ending in the first week of June. Takes a lot less trucks to do that. So you might see upwards of 10 trucks on a given day when we're doing the pre-level work. During the chip seal work, you're going to see that 15 to 20 trucks making 6 to 7, possibly upwards of 8 rounds.
but I mean, it's almost 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. Either you're going to have them coming over the loop,
Yeah.
or you're going to have them coming up 153. So
Right.
pick your
Right.
poison about
Right.
which one.
There's only one way to do maintenance work, and that's to haul the rock where you need it. So, so like I said, it's going to be very hit or miss. It's not like they're going to see 24/7, you know, 100 trucks an hour rolling out of this pit site.
What about the, so you mentioned the sand, this will, and I want to make sure that
Yeah.
all the information is out there, because we're not just talking about getting
Yep.
gravel for
Yep.
chip seal and only doing it 3 days out of the year, because
Right.
we gotta get sand.
So
out of there
the
for-
sand we'll have, usually when we have them come in and crush, we have them screen the reject sand down to a certain size so we don't have big noogies in the sand, so we're not breaking windshields. So what we'll do is we'll put together a sand haul in the fall, usually in September, first part of October, when we get done with all our chip seal and all our other work. We'll put together a sand haul, and typically what we do is we haul in about 2,000 yards to each location.
So going up the valley and then down the valley, you
Yep.
would do that.
Yep.
And does that do just one winter's
Yes.
worth of sand?
Yeah, that would be hauling every fall. We
So
would
every
put together.
fall, we would haul
Yep,
To the county shops.
to the county shops?
yep.
Will water be used for dust control? How much water? Where will it come from? Is there water legally available for commercial use? Okay, so we know that if we use it for commercial use, it's interruptible. Is that true?
The well that's currently
Yeah.
on site?
If you're using a permit exempt well, you'd be restricted to your 5,000 gallons a day. It would be
And it
interruptible.
would
I
be-
don't know what the Pateros water is. Do you have water right? out of
So we have
Pateros?
we have a water right out of the Columbia River. I believe it's the Man's water right, but we have a diversion point down in Pateros that we can drop the pump in, and there is no limitation. I mean, well,
So if we had to haul water to the site, we would haul it out.
we would
of
haul it
Pateros.
from
But-
Pateros, yes.
That one well, we could, under exempt.
Technically, we could
exempt
haul
well,
one load a day.
We could, pump
Yeah.
up to 5,000 gallons per
Right.
day, but it would be subject to in-stream flows.
Right.
Correct.
So we could potentially put a little bit of water storage up there.
Absolutely.
If we had to, how much, does the crusher take water? I don't know, I've never.
Typically, with our specs that we do not require washed rock. If we were crushing a state spec chip, then they would have to have washed rock. And so a lot of times, you know, if they have a site that doesn't have water, then they're bringing in the big construction tanks and.
Some guys use water just for dust abatement on the crusher itself,
Right,
but not for the wash rock, as Gary's saying.
yeah. So like I said, once again, for dust control around the site, I'll be honest, a lot of rock crushing goes on in late fall, early spring, to where you really don't need the dust control. Usually you're fighting mud at that point. I'm not gonna say that, depending on the crusher schedule, they could come in August. So at that point, it would be on the crushers, it would be part of their bid packet, that they would have to keep the site, you know, do dust abatement control. They would have to find their own source of water. We could potentially work with, you know, we've done it in the past, work with contractor and let them use our diversion point. And that's usually to mitigate the cost, because ultimately we're gonna pay the cost. So yeah, like I said, as for watering, with the diversion point with the terrace, it's a close haul. We haul water much farther for just blading our county roads, so.
Is that,
Yes, thank
where will the runoff go? It probably won't be that much, I mean.
So, once again, we're really not changing the property to affect current runoff. So current runoff's gonna go where it currently is. From the pit site itself, I mean, in the design of it's gonna be, you know, a pit, any runoff from the pit's going to stay in the pit. And, you know, evaporate off or seep back into the ground how it currently does. Once again, we don't anticipate releasing large amounts of runoff water that aren't currently already there.
This next one, I have no idea.
Yeah, that one there, I was gonna defer to Perry on if he had the answer for that.
No particular reason. That's what the form said, more than likely. Quit claim deed, statutory warranty deed, all would work. It'd be
What's the difference between the two?
Statutory warranty deed is constructed differently. It has particular guarantees. So you're conveying a specified interest, if you will, where a quit claim is a general conveyance of interest. So I couldn't give you a statutory warranty deed for the Brooklyn Bridge, but I could give you a quit claim deed for the Brooklyn Bridge, and all I'm doing is conveying my interest in the Brooklyn Bridge to you. If it's nothing, it's nothing. So that would be actually a question for the closing, and certainly a point that's negotiable.
I'm the one that sent these questions in, and I just, first of all, I really want to thank you guys. You only got these questions 2 days ago, and I was not expecting such thorough answers so soon, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I feel like I've had a crash course in gravel crushing, and I have learned a lot, and it has really helped me understand. I had not an opinion for or against this. I just want to educate myself, and I feel like I have been educated, and I actually feel a lot better about the whole thing, and it's just a reality. So anyway, my question about this purchase and sale agreement, I just went through a land transaction recently, and I learned a lot. I feel like it might be something worth looking at, because I did a little research, and it seems like a quit claim deed might expose the county to a certain amount of liability, because there is no guarantee that the seller even owns the property. When you do it that way, there's no checking to see if there's any liens, or, you know, I just feel like as stewards of the county funds, you might because it's just a much stronger.
Statutory warranty deed is a much more structured conveyance document. As you
You know, you could convey your amount of interest in the Brooklyn Bridge. Well, yeah, exactly. That's.
buyer,
You don't
buyer
know.
beware.
Yeah,
buyer
exactly.
beware.
And then has a legal survey been done to determine boundaries?
So, not yet, that'll be done in this next phase. That is spelled out in this next. So this first one's about, is it good business for the county to pursue the purchase of this? The legal survey will be done before the actual purchase goes through. It just sends us into the 180-day feasibility, and that's part of the requirements of, and then once again with pursuing the fish and wildlife option, we would need to spell out those boundaries of that and have it all surveyed in, so we have exact amounts that they would be purchasing versus, so I will say the totals I have given are some calculations on our point, because we put that line in and we did, we pulled measurements. They're fairly accurate, but the legal survey has not been done as of yet, but will be done before the final purchase goes through. So that being said about this process is the final purchase will not happen if we don't meet all the criteria that was spelled out in the
Right.
so when we go through that 180 days of the feasibility, we've already checked that off. But there's still a lot that has to come to fruition before the actual check, leaves the account.
Yeah.
So,
Those are really good questions.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a hot topic of conversation
Right.
in our neck of the woods, and
Right.
there's so many rumors flying around. I think it's really helpful to just get straight answers, numbers,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. If you can give a similar presentation on Wednesday, I think a
Absolutely.
lot of people are
Yeah.
gonna.
Yeah. And we'll have a little more information on Wednesday. Like I said, Wednesday we'll
Yeah.
have the full-blown 3D virtual rendering of what it would look like
Yeah.
with the pit in place.
That should be very helpful to
Yeah.
get some predictability on what the view is gonna be. And then,
Yeah.
I think the SEPA checklist and the questions that have to be answered in that as well is a disclosure statement. And a lot of the questions that have been asked will be asked in the SEPA checklist in a very direct sort of way. And Perry will have to ponder those issues as they're asked. Daily truck traffic will probably be one of them that you have to answer. And so having a good estimate of that should be helpful.
Right.
And yes, let's go.
I missed the first couple of minutes, I got caught in the maze out there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I'm wondering, so should the mine or the gravel pit not go through, what happens to the wildlife? That's just off, and then the county has to.
It's been on the tape, I mean, the property's been for sale for 2 years now, roughly.
So basically, like I said, none of this goes through. The purchase will not go through.
Okay.
And then basically the agreement we have come to on the purchase price for the said acreage will be null and void.
And then,
We wanted to purchase the whole piece of property because that's how the seller wanted to sell it.
Yep.
We don't need the whole piece of property. So to try to mitigate for a whole bunch of different things. I mean, the water issue, the water issues down there, the number of, the number of parcels down there, finding somebody who would actually purchase it for, something other than, developing it or something like that or whatever. I mean, this just seemed like the best option to keep our costs down, to get what we needed, and also to help, if we're gonna, if we can provide access to the public for those, some of that property up there, I think that would be a good thing too.
so then, as far as the public input, the steps are the open meeting, or the meeting on Wednesday, and then the public hearing, what is it, July 8th?
July 8th. And then when we start into the CUP process, there'll be another round of public hearings that come through into the CUP process. Because once again, that's the conditional use permit. And so we'll go through 2 more public hearings through that period.
There'll be 2 comment periods, one on the threshold decision, then the second on the conditional use permit itself. You'll have at least 1 public hearing. It's the discretion of the hearing examiner if he needs additional time for public input.
I think the emphasis on that too is that during that period, we are no longer the audience for the hearings.
So all we're doing is having our public hearings and this is nice, actually, to be able to just talk back and forth. Have these so that we can determine if we even want to buy this piece of property. I mean, this, you know, we're, the amount of money that you have to pay for property over there, it just keeps going up and up and up and up. And the amount of maintenance that we have to do stays the same or, you know, whatever. So our not went down over there, that's for sure. So true.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So then on the 8th, the public's focus needs to be comments on the possible gravel pit.
It would be
Rather than
on
whether wild-
comments on the possible purchase of the property. Because the 8th meeting is solely about the purchase of the property. It doesn't hurt to bring concerns of the gravel pit in at that point, because that'll help them inform their decision on, yes, should we purchase this or not. But the actual gravel pit and permitting side of it really won't happen until we get into the CUP side of it. If the CUP falls flat on its face and we can't get that in place, then once again, that
You know,
eliminates
I
it.
kind of look at it like it
Chicken
is,
or the egg kind of a thing, or I'm caught in this chicken or the egg
Right.
thing. I mean, they're supposed to give input on the purchase of the property before feasibility study and before.
Is, based on what we think that we want to do with this piece of property, is everybody madly opposed to it, or does it seem like, that's okay, you know? But if we decide that we're going to purchase this piece of property, we're not going to purchase it unless we can actually do what we want to do with it.
Yep.
And that's that feasibility study. So if in that feasibility study it falls apart,
Yeah, just it becomes a
You can't-
contingency process after the initial decision.
you know, if we were actually had a permit on the table and we were doing a scoping thing, this is almost like a pre-scoping. I mean, it really is. It's like, what are the issues that people are concerned about now before we actually prepare a conditional use permit application? So we can get an idea of what people are most concerned about.
Bernie?
Okay, first off, I'd say kudos for finding a pit site to help out Area 3 and 4. This has been needed for quite some time. However, Gary, in your presentation, probably would be nice to have what it's going to cost to build the road.
Okay.
And you mentioned a parking lot. And is it going to be maintained on a regular basis? Or how is that going to be done? And
Verlene, do you mean for like the public access portion of that, or the whole thing, or?
well, I understand where the pit is going to be, you don't want the public in there, remember that be any illegal access. So where you mentioned the parking lot, how is this going to be maintained? Is this going to have another road number as a county road?
At this point, I don't see us making it a full-blown county road.
Okay.
It is going to be an access point to county property. And maintenance-wise, obviously, it's going to see better maintenance because we're utilizing the site with our own trucks. And so I have to keep the road graded up, you know, so it's smooth to drive on, so we can actually haul in and out of there effectively versus a truck having to do 1 mile an hour crawling up and waiting for the other truck to get up so they can go down. And but I can put some figures on what we believe the cost would be to widen the road out. Basically, we're going to be using native material to do the widening, and then if we need to haul gravel in spots, we would. But for the most part, it would be on native soil.
You know, and a good thing might be to do is split those two apart, because go from the highway up to where our gate would be,
Yep.
because we would have to put that in no matter what.
Yep.
And then go from the gate
Yep.
to the public access point, so we can break those two costs
Absolutely.
apart, so that people can actually see, okay, look, you know, this is the added cost that we want to do
Right.
to, you know, try to keep, you know, add some
Right.
access.
Yep. Yeah, and that's something that, once again, we're gonna be in grading our own road into the pit. You know, to grade the next little portion up, you know, we're talking pretty minimal cost, we're already there. Talking another half-hour time.
Yeah, because that's not a huge distance to where
No.
the border of our property.
No.
You're not gonna build it, so it's hard to do that, so.
No, yeah, so, but yeah, I can definitely throw some figures at that, so, yeah.
And just one more question, with this going to another state entity, then we won't have to surplus the end portion that we don't want, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other comments? Claude? Everybody good? To go, Isabel?
I guess I have one question. Should wildlife purchase this property? Is there any particular species or whatever that they would be targeting, or why is it a value?
It's upland steppe, I think is
Shrubs,
what
yeah.
it was, shrub steppe, yeah.
Shrub
They
steppe.
said that it was for mule deer, for mule habitat, and for, they have said that it's a good piece of property for.
There's no, for
Shrub
house.
steppe has a lot of species.
Down there.
served,
Right,
so,
exactly,
yeah.
right, yeah. But we already had, you know, did a little bit of preliminary stuff about, hey, is this even a piece that is worth, you know, having as far as wildlife habitat goes? And I said, yeah, it's, you know, it's mule deer habitat, and it would be a good piece.
Just as a point of interest, I don't know if you guys, because you're in the Met House, followed the controversy that took about a 3-year process to get a septic lagoon over here in Okanogan County, on the Okanogan County side. But there were about 4 different proposed sites. 3 of them were protested. The 4th one was even protested, but eventually got through. They got their conditional use permit. And anybody that is skeptical should go take a look at that operation. They did exactly what they said they were gonna do. They even went so far as to put in a very elaborate circle. They used an irrigation circle and adapted it to putting the effluent after it's been treated on the property. And everybody was complaining about, you know, we're worried about birds, we're worried about smell, we're worried. There has not been one single person. In fact, if you go poll people now and say, you know, there's a septic lagoon up there? What? But they were all up in arms, you know, for 2.5 years. And it comes back to location, location, location. We have to have a rock source in the Met House if we're going to continue to service the road in this valley for $33,000 a mile. It'll be 4 times the price for a mile in the Met House. So, you know, I think this is just my personal opinion. I think this is a tremendous find. The location, the fact that the rock even exists there, and the quantity, and the analysis that we're going through, and that's why we're doing the workshop. That's why we're going to the Met House with presentation, to alleviate a lot of people's consternation or fear or misunderstanding. We hope the process works out.
Our charge is to, I mean, one of the biggest ones is the budget. We are completely responsible for the county budget. So for us to do business and for us to do effective business with taxpayers' dollars, we have to look at every way that we can save money and do what we need to do as far as work goes. And I mean, this deal right here meets all of that criteria. We save money, I mean, it meets a lot of criteria. We're saving money on the property itself. We're putting property into wildlife habitat. We're conserving, we're looking at the water issues that we have in a portion of the valley that we know that we have water issues. So we're doing all of these different things, and we're getting a good source of rock for a long period of time.
Well, I think communication will go a long ways. You know, like it's just get the visual, that's probably gonna be a huge thing. Let's put that up first, answer questions next, or whatever. Then give maybe the details of the financing later. So you got the overall picture, how much total you're gonna save and all that, and then get to the small details later and ask questions, give people a chance to questions. I think, you know, it's a good example of a good process. You know more than anybody else how much is going on right now. There's a lot for people to keep their eye on in their neighborhoods or the whole county, and this is like, whoa, this all of a sudden, you know, so I think the communication will help.
Yeah, and that's our hope, because if we did everything in a formal basis, you know very well how the public hearing goes. You don't have a chance to just sit and talk back and forth. It's strictly run, you know, in a either judicial or quasi-judicial fashion, and that gives the public the ability to come do a testimony. Sometimes there's a lot of testimony, so we have to restrict the time that you can tell. You guys know what that process is, and it's not a real process. I mean, this is a good tool, in my estimation, to inform the people, so.
Yeah, I think the questions help too. So when everything's laid out, then people can figure out what they think. But when they don't have the tools, and there's all kinds of opportunities for upset feelings.
Yeah.
The one thing that I like to lay out first is the issue that we are out of rock over there. I mean, it's not like that we're just trying to do this because, oh, all of a sudden a piece of property came up for office. We knew about this issue. I mean, that was one of the first issues that brought up, hey, you know, those two pits over there, they don't have a long lifespan, and we actually thought they had a little bit longer lifespan than what they did have.
Last year, we got a real abrupt slap in the face with that.
Yeah. So,
50 years from now, somebody's gonna say, remember how smart those county.
remember how much
Too bad we won't be here to hear that.
That's right, exactly.
Well, then, right back to location, location, location. How many calls did we have on the last crush that we did at Twin Lake? The phone was ringing off the wall. And so instantly, we don't, there's no more, the county, there's no more gravel there. There's no more crushing to be had there in either one of them. So, yeah, it's a good location.
People have legitimate questions and legitimate concern, and we're glad to be able to have the conversation before a public hearing. Public hearings tend to, then the comments get a little twisted and you don't get to answer the questions, and it just doesn't work out well. So thanks for participating.
Yes, thank you very much.
We're trying to take some of the frustration level out of the public hearing process.
So I would say,
For everyone.
for me, the only other thing I would add is for me, I take my job extremely seriously. First and foremost, I am a taxpayer of Okanogan County, and I take that to heart. Every decision I make, I try to make sure that I have the taxpayer's best interest in mind at all times. I wouldn't bring anything to these guys' table if I didn't thoroughly vet it first and make sure that it met that criteria. We're not up here just asking for every little whim because it's what we want. It is need driven, and I try to always make sure that I have the taxpayer's best interest in mind at all times.
We learned that about him when he was working on the landfill.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but as a primitive road study,
Hopefully that's what the study will answer a few questions for. What kind of road system we have out there, and what's the potential for paving some of the roads, and what's the potential for, eliminating roads. So that's kind of what it's for. By the way, it's called back road study now.
back road study. But Yeah.
Okanogan County backwards.
That's a tough one to tackle on that different tangent, you know, when you look at primitive roads and you look at Okanogan County as a whole, we've got over 700 miles of dirt road. I'm not even gonna call them gravel, because very few of them have gravel on them. And you look at the amount of money that is being spent just to try to maintain what we currently have, where do we find that extra money to bring in that needed gravel? You know, our operators are out there rattling their teeth out of their head trying to maintain some of the stuff. I know because I've been there. You know, and that's a tough nut to crack. It really is.
June 26, 6 p.m., Met House Community Center, essentially the same format, same or additional information. It took us a while to get our venue and time and date confirmed, so we were unable to publish that. However, we have enlisted the assistance of interested people, and we'll still enlist the assistance of interested people to get the word out. They have posted some of these notices, as I understand, in the post office and things like that. So if anyone wants to assist getting the word out, that would certainly be of value. All this material is going on our website as it comes into our possession, so people can go to the planning website and review it there. Then, of course, the public hearing on the 8th is the more formal proceeding to build the record upon which the commissioners will subsequently make a decision.
Do you think that we could use, and I always go back to this, and I don't know how many people it reach, but I don't think, it's not gonna hurt, use the Maurice's notification system?
I posed that question in a different venue not long ago, and they say you pretty much do what you want to do.
So I would just tell them, hey, we draw a circle around here about 5 miles and just send this out. Whoever's signed up, they're signed up. I mean, it can't, like I said, it can't hurt to try to get any more, you know, people out there. I mean, we know where our circle was.
I will pose the question.
Okay.
July 8th, 1:30 here. Any other questions? Anything else?
On the 26th, is it at the church in Meadow?
No.
Or it's at the community?
Community center.
Okay.
Community center.
Commissioner Hoover is well rehearsed now. So hopefully just one of the commissioners being there will work for y'all. Otherwise, we have to drag Laney over there too. And we think that since we had this one, and then we'll have the hearing, those issues will be identified.
Yeah.
We'll hear
And
what's
this one
going
is
on.
videoed, and people will be able to see this if they want to before, so they can,
Right.
you know,
And I'll be
frame their
present.
questions
I'll be present
appropriately.
at the 26th meeting as well. So.
Yeah.
So it's an informational session.
Same thing as this, only it's over there so that people don't have to drive over here.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
One thing I thought you might have forgot to say is that we was up there today, there's 8 houses that we can see from the top of that flat. And the one thing about it is, there's room up there to stockpile all kinds of gravel to start.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking at a 100-acre flat, so
Yep.
it could be an airport.
There you go.
No airports and no food safety treatment.
Right next to the septic leak. Yes.
At least not under this watch, huh?
Commissioners, next subject on your agenda, we've talked about it now a couple of times. You have necessarily clear to me, we ordinarily make 2, but anyway. Thank you. It does not specify who signs for the county. I would suggest that the chairman, in our usual practice, sign it. You have $240,000 for 2 years, $220,000 which will be available to us. $20,000 they're retaining for contingencies. I have contacted the Conservation District. They are willing to continue with the implementation, so we'll see a new contract with them if that be the desire of the commissioners.
Is the chairman signing all three of
Yes,
these?
yes. That'll give us an
This is
extra.
why you made 3, so we could all look at them at once.
There you go. That is why I made 3. When, in a little different departure from what we ordinarily do, and it's just what we did in the past, if you put your signatures on it, I'll go ahead and coordinate with the clerk of the board mail the copies to the Conservation Commission for their signatures. They'll keep one, send one back to us. And this well, just along with a number of other things that are going on, will require a budget amendment in the planning department budget, so we're preparing that. You'll see that in the not too distant future.
I would move to approve and authorize the chair to sign 2019-21 binding contract between Washington State Conservation Commission and Okanogan County for the voluntary stewardship program implementation.
I second the motion.
Motion second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item, Commissioners, by way of an update, Uriah 49 watershed planning process, or I should say the update to the watershed plan. The initiating governments met last week to go over some of the processes that are underway. I wanted to make sure the Commissioners understood the planning unit was informed by the Department of Ecology that additional funding was available. So at this point, you'll recall with the Department of Ecology that has $300,000 available for this effort, $150,000 to support the efforts of the planning group and $150,000 to support title local capacity, but it supports the efforts of the lead entity and whatever other activities you believe appropriate to facilitate that process. This money is in addition to that. $250,000 total available. The technical advisory group met and discussed what they believe were, in the phrase we've been using, where data gaps exist, where other information would be useful that we may not be able to afford to do with the $300,000 currently available. They arrived at two things. One, and bear in mind that when we submit our plan, while the legislation does not require the planning unit, actually the initiating government submits the plan to determine the net ecological benefit. However, it's fairly clearly understood that that would be a very positive element of the plan that you submit. So,
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
what has been identified in evaluation something tool, for some reason I completely.
Now you're.
I think we're in a recess here.
Gary,
Just a moment.
What should I do?
Was it something I said? I don't know.
Can you talk right now?
Sorry,
That's okay.
When Commissioner Dietrich gets back, I can talk to him, or we can take a short recess here.
I can hang out.
You can hang out for a little
I'm not in
bit?
that big a rush, so.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of what was going on there. Did you?
He needs to talk to me about the racetrack.
Oh,
Racetrack.
We can take a quick break from this if you want to get that done.
make a motion